Your testimony is clearly disadvantageous to your client. What else could I say? I'm standing on the witness's stand, after all.
So you are, Mr. Gavin. And you had to testify as you just did. You had to tell them you saw the scene of the crime through the little window.
Mr. Wright?
You had to say that. Because that was the only probable window of opportunity. Right, Apollo?
Oh.
Mr. Wright, the defense should do the cross-examination, not the defendant. Mr. Justice, are you prepared?
Yes, Your Honor. I can't believe I'm going up against Mr. Gavin. This trial is getting weirder and weirder. It's a dark and full night. That man? You mean Mr. Smith?
He was different.
He was different from the other customers. His aura, shall we say,
Was purple.
Another nutcase.
I knew he was a serious poker player, but it was more than that. So then you knew the truth of the nature of your client's job.
Flying eyeballs.
Of course, but I also knew he wasn't engaged in gambling, which would be illegal.
Well, it makes sense that he'd know. They were friends, after all.
Worried for my friend, I returned to the club. You see, I feared this Mr. Smith may be someone coming to settle an old score. I see. What happened then?
The little window. You mean the one used to keep watch up the stairs?
Yes, a relic of the ancient past. The Black Marketeers used it, I believe.
Now, why did you go through the trouble of peeking in through the window? Wouldn't it have been easier just to open the door and go into the room?
I didn't want to upset Wright, you see.
Upset Mr. Wright?
Yes. What if my fears had been unfounded? I'd be walking in there in on their match. A bad form, to say the least.
So far, everything he's saying makes sense. How do you know it was right after the murder?
Really, no need to shout, Justice. I was just getting to that part in my testimony.
Ah, there he is. The coolest defense in the West we know and love. Even when you're standing up there in the witness stand, some things never change.
I was afraid you'd change too, Wright. But you haven't. You and that overbearing personality of yours.
With friends like that, who needs enemies? Hacking phrase number
26.
By photo, you mean the second photograph of the crime scene.
Precisely. You see, he wasn't wearing his hat then. I saw his head when he was dead.
And then Mr. Wright came along and replaced his hat.
Can you describe the scene of the crime for us?
No.
So, those were the only three at the scene of the crime.
Yes, as far as I saw, at least. Then we're back where we started. The killer was the defendant, Phoenix Wright. Who else could it have been? But why didn't you talk to the police? 2 reasons. First, I didn't actually witness the very moment of the crime. Second, my office was asked to defend Wright. Even after seeing what I had seen, I couldn't abandon my friend.
There must have been someone else there at the moment of the crime.
Justice, I just said I saw no one. Not a soul.
Won't this be a major ethical violation for conflict of interest? But that goes against what Mr. Wright said.
Oh yes, this mysterious 4th person. Who would conveniently be the real killer, I suppose.
Glad to see we agree, Mr. Gavin.
Let me pose a question, then. Tell me, what possible reason did the real killer have to swap cards in the victim's hand?
Exclamation point.
Perhaps you can show us a reason why such a thing would be necessary.
How can I show something I can't find myself?
Remember, Apollo, the card that was swapped out there was the fifth ace. The fifth ace, right?
Oops.
Oh, we skipped a line, but well, Mr. Justice. The question of why the killer would swap out a card has been raised. Can you point to a reason?
Because it had blood on it.
It's now or never. The defense would like to present evidence to the court. Evidence showing the reason why a card was swapped out.
Then go ahead and point out your reason, Mr. Justice. Why did the killer take the fifth ace?
Because it had blood on it.
Gee, it's a bloody ace. My reason is, this.
Is that an ace? Why? Why, it's got blood on it! Right next to the spade! Oh, what? This is insane! Why wasn't I told about this? Why? Could this be? Could this be the missing fifth ace?
This is why evidence was cleared before the trial.
Inconceivable. How could you? What are you doing with that card?
Well, that's the thing. You see, why the hell is Mr. Gavin so upset? It's just a
Oh, that card? It's mine. That is, I picked it up at the Borscht Bowl Club that night after the murder occurred. I gave it to my daughter. Cards are her stock in trade, after all.
No, impossible, unacceptable. The court can't accept this evidence. It's a fraud.
A fraud? How could you be so sure?
What?
I would think the only person who could claim it was a fraud would be the only one who took the real card from the scene. The real killer. Allow me to elaborate. What is trace of blood was the reason.
The reason for?
For the killer to take the card from the scene of the crime.
Where are you going with this?
Taking out a photo. And at the end, the victim's head. And at the moment of the crime, his hat fell to the floor. And a trickle of blood ran from his forehead down to the back of his head. Couldn't a drop of the blood have fallen on one of the cards?
I suppose.
This killer then took the card to hide the blood.
Regardless, that evidence is non-permissible.
Oh?
Right, regardless of how you wasted the last 7 years, you used to be a lawyer. You know what a serious crime is to conceal evidence.
Oh, we can discuss the finer points of our legal system later. What's important now is that I've answered your question.
What are you talking about?
You wanted to know why the killer would have taken the card from the crime scene. And now, I've told you. That one drop of blood would have been decisive evidence, you see.
This is baseless conjecture. Baseless.
Oh, I assure you, it's quite based.
What?
It's amazing, really, how a single drop of blood on a single card can lead us to the truth. It's quite simple. Well, Apollo?
Yeah?
During the scene of the crime. In your head. Music plays.
And it's become all 3D-ish.
Grayo vision. The murder took place in the hideout. The body of the luckless victim was found at the poker table next to the way to differentiate I from Y in pronouncing it. And before the killer swapped a card out, there was a single card with a drop of blood on it in the victim's hand. Given this, there is one decisive problem with this scene.
Well, what is it?
Let's keep it simple, shall we? Given that there's a drop of blood on a card, whose position in this diagram doesn't fit? The victims, the killers, the witnesses, the second witnesses? Whose position doesn't fit? Oh, obviously Mr. Gavin.
That guy we're accusing.
Not quite.
Oh, wait. Oh, that's right, yeah. The victim doesn't quite fit.
Well, isn't the victim's position?
I don't follow your logic here, Mr. Justice.
Well, look, victim was struck on the head, sending him back in his chair. You think any blood would fall behind the body, not onto the table in front of him.